I'm going to share it real quick, and then I'll get it.
What's that? Well, a very good Monday evening to you. Welcome in the Chico Borman Show, a very special Chico Borman Show, a very special Browns preview show. Yes, it is week 2. Yes, it is Browns Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh against those hated Steelers. Browns with a chance to go 2-0 for the first time in 30 years. Chico, did you say that's 30 years? And damn it, it's going to happen tonight. Welcome in. We would love to hear from you if you would like to chime in. You can certainly do that, 216-626-7901 here on the Big Play Sports Network. I am Mike Chico Borman. Nick Padone is here as well, and I know he is fired up. We've got folks gathering in the hallway as we speak, Mr. Padone. I would say that emotions are riding high this evening.
I think people are fired up, Chico, for the Browns. Like you said, opportunity to go 2-0. It's a big one today. There's no beating around the bush here on this program. It's a big game for the Browns, the biggest in quite some time, at least in recent memory, and I think they do it. I know we'll get into everything later in the show, but it's tough to not feel good about the Browns going into this game.
Yeah, and you know what? This isn't one of those. I mean, God knows we talked a lot about it last week before the Cincinnati game, our great pregame that we had up here at the airport, where, you know, it was a legitimate and a genuine, like, you know, good feeling about the game, about the season, and it wasn't something that in years past we knew, like, deep down, you're not really feeling it. It was genuine, but then they went out against Cincinnati and put together a performance that was just, I mean, it left no doubt. That doesn't mean there weren't things to clean up and things to get better at. The elements certainly played a role, and Deshaun Watson's going to get better and progress, and the offense will get better and progress as the season rolls along. We'll see what happens with Amari Cooper tonight. Going to be a game-time decision from what we understand. He's going to try to give it a go, but they'll work him out before the game and see. But last week, when we look at last week and not only how the Browns fared, but how the Steelers fared, how can you not feel good going into this game? Now, there are a lot of folks out there, and you're exactly right if you're one of them, saying, boy, Chico, I don't know. That Steeler team, Mike Tomlin, you know, the Browns like to talk about culture, and to get culture, you've got to start winning consistently. That's the only way you change culture and become a winning organization. You got to go out there and you got to do it. You can't talk about it. You got to go do it. Well, last week, they started doing that. Now tonight, you know, here's the other thing. If you're going to be a team that has playoff aspirations, as this Cleveland Browns team does here in 2023, you're going to have to go on the road and you're going to have to win games in your division. And why not? You won't find a better time to do that than tonight at Acrisure. I can't even say Acrisure. Three Rivers, Heinz Field, whatever the hell you want to call that place. You won't have a better time than tonight, than to go in there, the Browns to go in there and get it done and end this talk. Because, again, I only keep bringing up the word culture because the Browns keep bringing up the word culture. Ironically enough, the teams that have the culture in this division, the Baltimore Ravens, any coincidence they started the season 2-0? And go ahead, yeah.
We do have a little bit of breaking news on the show. This one's from Ian Rappaport of NFL Network. Amari Cooper active tonight for the Browns. He will play.
Wow, that's big. Nick, I'll be honest with you. When that news came about on Saturday, I believe it was, Saturday or Friday when it broke about his knee or his hamstring, groin, whatever it was, that we kind of thought, I know I kind of thought, like, you know what, if he even makes the trip, I'll be, oh yeah, yeah, come get some. That's what I'm talking about. You know, I mean, that just gets me fired up. Greg Williams, who made an appearance last week at our tailgate, his son Blake, I believe, in the building as well. This is good stuff. This is good stuff. But, you know, if you're going to talk, so Amari Cooper is
active. So I'm curious to see how this unfolds as the game goes on. I think just because he's active doesn't mean that they're going to give him a king's ransom. I think they'll probably take it a little bit easier, especially on a short week for Tennessee. But that's huge news, having your true number one healthy for this game. That's big time for the Browns. And good on Amari Cooper. All the reports leading up to this game was he was the one pounding his fist on the desk saying, hey, man, like, I want to play. I want to go. And he was able to make this pregame workout happen. He took the bus trip there, and now he's active tonight, Chico.
So, again, just to recap, Amari Cooper is active for tonight's game. So Cooper will see, as Nick just alluded to, how many snaps he gets. You're going to be very careful with him, obviously. But also, make no mistake, this guy is your best receiver. And, you know, it's no disrespect to the other guys, but he is clearly your number one. He is your guy that, you know, I think one of the best route runners in all of the NFL, probably doesn't get enough credit for just how great he is, every level of that route tree. So, yeah, that is big news for the Browns, big news, obviously, for Amari Cooper, and now one more guy that Pittsburgh Steelers defense has to worry about. I get the sense, Nick, that this is, and certainly not a hot take. Many people have been talking about it all day today, really all weekend long in preparation for this game. We're expecting a low-scoring affair, two defenses, and I know that San Francisco gouged the Steelers. Like, I look at that game last week, and, you know, it's easy to say, oh, man, just absolutely put all kinds of pressure on Kenny Pickett, and, hell, you hope you get in those advantageous situations, the second and long, third and long. I would like nothing better than that. But keep in mind that the Pittsburgh Steelers last week, and this is there were so many mind-numbing stats, not only from the Browns-Bengals game, but also from the Steelers-49ers game. The Pittsburgh Steelers had 1 total yard of offense at the 2-minute mark, the 2-minute warning in the first half. 1 yard. They were already down 20-0. So essentially what I'm saying is their game plan, any game plan that they had offensively went right out the window. Now, can the same thing happen here? Of course it can. Same thing can happen tonight. The Browns are able to, you know, get on the board early, and then, you know, all of a sudden you're getting to Kenny Pickett, you're creating some turnovers, maybe you get a defensive score, and then they start thinking, you know, well, here we go again. But I would say that this is probably, if I'm Pittsburgh, and Mike Tomlin certainly isn't going to be calling me up for advice, but if I'm Mike Tomlin and if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, I want to avoid as much as I possibly can getting Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, and company on defense, giving them those advantageous second and long, third and long, go ahead and pin your ears back and come get us situations. And how do you do that? Well, yeah, you do talk about the short passing game. You certainly talk about Najee Harris. Najee Harris was non-existent last week. Jaylen Warren, non-existent last week. I would imagine that is going to be an area that the Pittsburgh Steelers really want to come out and establish for a variety of reasons, but reason number one, make life easier on your quarterback, on Kenny Pickett, as much as you can, because it's one thing to have a very green quarterback, and they have high expectations for him, and I think they should, but, you know, coming out of the preseason, they were kind of preseason darlings. They were, man, you know, every time Kenny Pickett touched the ball, they scored in the preseason, and then the bullets started flying for real. And, you know, I'm not defending Pittsburgh by any stretch of the imagination here, but when you're going up against San Fran's defense followed by this Cleveland defense, which we saw on full display last week against Cincinnati, well, I mean, that's a full day. I mean, that's a full day's work for members of the Pittsburgh Steelers and members of the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line. Dan Moore, I mean, I don't want to crack on the guy, but like this is how bad it was. Pro Football Focus ranks every week, each position and where you fall. And so 75 offensive tackles in the NFL. Dan Moore Jr. was 75. Now, I'm not a math major. I'm not a football analyst, but I know if you're ranked 75 out of 75 at your respective position for that week, you didn't do very well, and he didn't do very well. Kenny Pickett hit the dirt 5 times. He was sacked 5 times. He was hit another 10 times. Much of what Joe Burrow experienced, Kenny Pickett experienced. So I think first and foremost, I know we're focused on Miles and getting to the quarterback, but this is where, and let's face it, Nick, this week, next week with Tennessee, the following week with Baltimore, and I'm not getting ahead of myself, but I'm just saying, if you look at that defensive side of the ball, yes, Myles Garrett received some help on the edge and getting to the quarterback, but it was largely about, pardon the pun, Dalvin Tomlinson, Shelby Harris, great signing. They drafted Ika and, basically about getting some girth up there, up front in the middle to be able to slow these run games. Pittsburgh's going to want to do that tonight. Tennessee's certainly going to want to do it against Derrick Henry. And the Baltimore Ravens, despite a ton of injuries and despite Todd Monken, they're still going to want to play bully ball. So, last week, I'm not saying you throw last week out the window. In a sense, you do because this is a whole new week. There's some things that you can take from that game. There's some things you can take from Pittsburgh-San Francisco game. But I think Pittsburgh's game plan is going to be entirely different. It was entirely different. It's just the Niners went in there and made them change it on the fly, and they just couldn't do it. But I think as far as slowing down the run, while we're focused on Miles and those guys, you're going to hear Dalvin Tomlinson. You're going to hear Harris. You're going to hear those run stoppers that they worked, and Andrew Berry specifically, worked so hard to obtain, to beef that up and to be able to stop the run and be better against the run. I think that's going to be on full display tonight.
Yeah, especially, too, when you take a look at this Steelers team. They're already light at receiver. Deontay Johnson is out for this game. He's on the IR. He's going to be out for at least the next 4. George Pickens was questionable coming into this game. I believe he's going to play, their young receiver from Georgia. But questionable, he was banged up throughout the week, later in the week, similar to Amari Cooper. So they're definitely going to try to run the football, I think, to take some of the pressure off Kenny Pickett. And before, had we been talking about a Joe Woods Browns defense, I would be like, yeah, that's probably the smart thing to do. But after what I saw last week at Cleveland Browns Stadium, okay, Tomlin, try it. Run that football against Dalvin Tomlinson and Shelby Harris, and we'll see what happens.
It was interesting watching and hearing Mike Tomlin this week and, getting his thoughts on the Browns game against the Bengals.
Always very matter-of-fact is Mike Tomlin.
And the eyeballs are always very large. They're always very – I love Mike Tomlin.
Same.
Mike Tomlin, you heard him say, like, I think that that secondary, those corners won it for him. This is the beauty of it, and it just so happens that, a guy who knows a thing or two about defense is out in the hallway. I'm hoping we can talk to him at some point, Greg Williams. I know he joined us last week. But when you can marry the secondary, you can, marry the secondary with that rush up front, isn't it great to have that debate? Like, well, who was more was it the chicken or the egg? Who was more responsible? Was it Denzel Ward? Was it Martin Emerson and Greg Newsome? Was it Myles Garrett? Well, it was everybody. But, for Mike Tomlin, he's like, wow, I thought that secondary played well. They all played well. And, man, you can't say enough about Jim Schwartz being able to dial all that up.
And Burrow has been around the block, and he couldn't even handle it. He played in a Super Bowl against Aaron Donald. Kenny Pickett, this is year 2, game 2 for him, a younger guy with that sort of pass rush. If you're the Browns, you got to be feeling pretty good about what you have going. Unless the Steelers make some drastic changes, maybe get a fullback or a tight end in there, I don't know. The Browns defense, it could be open season if the Steelers really don't make any adjustments on that front.
All right, we got the preview show up and going already here on the Big Play Sports Network. Mike Chico Borman with you. Nick Padone here as well. We'll be with you until 8 o'clock kickoff from Acrisure Stadium right around 8:20. Monday Night Football doesn't get much bigger, but again, when you talk about the stakes and you say, Chico, can the stakes be that high 2 games in? Well, the season isn't won or lost. But we knew going into this season that you looked at that schedule and you said, wow, Cincinnati right out of the gate. Pittsburgh right out of the gate. You got Tennessee, and then you got Baltimore. So 3 out of the 4, it's going to be ready or not. Here you go. Well, It's only 1 game, ready or not. Oh, they were more than ready for week 1. Now, how do you answer? Because this is where, and it's, I know it's not the sexy thing to say or talk about, but this is where, when we talk about culture and consistency, teams like the Browns who need to get there, you just go out and you get the job done. Like you're coming off a high. You played your asses off last week. Now you got to go out and you got to do it all over again on the road against that divisional opponent.
And I respect the hell out of what Deshaun Watson has said all week long, and he has echoed those same sentiments, Chico. He refers to it as you just got to keep stacking them. You just got to keep stacking these wins. You can't get too high with the victories. You can't get too low with the losses. I give Deshaun a lot of credit for staying as even keel as he was, because he heard the noise. He heard the chatter of how long it was since the Browns won an opener in that stadium. It was a while. I'm sure he's heard the noise this week of the Browns and their long, torturous history in that stadium out there in Pittsburgh land. But I think he has a level head heading into this matchup, and I'm optimistic about that part of it too. Obviously needs to play a lot better on the field, but he's saying all the right things off of it.
Well, I want to shift over to that side of the ball here now. 216-626-7901 if you want to chime in. You can also stream us live on Twitter at Chico Show CLE. You can also go over to the YouTube channel, our YouTube channel, the Chico Borman Show. Hit subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and be ready to go for that. Hey, we also have your opportunity wherever you want it. You can check out BigPlay.com, the Big Play Network, where you want it, how you want it, when you want it, the new way of enjoying entertainment, live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, on-demand shows on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Okay, you mentioned the offensive side of the ball, and I think that as much as we are excited, and justifiably so, about the defense, the Steelers are also very excited about their defense. Now, someone might say, well, wait a minute, didn't San Francisco put up 30? Yeah, and they've got some things to, be corrected there. But make no mistake, this is T.J. Watt. This is Alonzo Highsmith. This is Minkah Fitzpatrick, one of the best in the business on the back end. And if there's a concern, I mean, we're allowed to voice concerns heading into this game, even if we both, and I think we do, both like the Browns tonight. I don't think there's any question. I think if you pulled 10 people right now out in the hallway, Greg might not have any concerns. But if you pulled 10 people out in the hallway, what are your concern? Your number one concern for this game? It would be DeJuan Jones at right tackle, Jed Wills at left tackle, and how are these guys going to do? Now, I have said, and I'm not trying to be, hot takey here. I wouldn't do that, Padone. You know that.
I know that, Chico.
I might be a little more concerned about Jed Wills than I am DeJuan Jones. I was afraid that's where you were heading with this. Yeah. Now, here's the thing. We can talk about it. It doesn't have to all be. These are legitimate concerns.
And this is also why they play the games. We could talk about this pregame all we want. Jed Wills could go out there and have a great game against Pittsburgh, and hopefully all these fears subside.
I want him to.
I would love him to, but history shows us.
But we can't act like it's not there.
Right.
I mean, the same way that, look, Kenny Pickett, and I said this immediately after the Browns-Bengals ended and then the Niners and the Steelers ended. And, of course, we were watching it here at the Big Play Studios here at Burke Lakefront Airport, and we had the Steelers and the Niners on another TV. And when the games ended and you saw the final numbers, my first thought was, man, if you're Kenny Pickett, you're Kenny Pickett, and you absolutely got your butt handed to you. And now you're going to go home. You're going to try to, sleep this one off. You're going to get up. And then when you go back to the facility, you're turning on the tape, and it's 95, and it's Zadarius Smith, and it's like he's going to be like, wait a minute. I just got done seeing Nick Bosa and Fred Warner and all of these other guys. Now I've got to worry about these guys. Yeah. But on the flip side, I think the Steelers are probably salivating as well. Like, hey, we're gonna make life very interesting, or make life a bit difficult if we can for Deshaun Watson. But much like the Steelers, Nick, want to establish a run game, because we all want to establish a run game. Well, they don't have the luxury of some guy wearing 24 named Nick Chubb in their backfield. And, you talk about ways to quiet a crowd. You talk about ways to stave off a pass rush. A good running game will do that. The Browns have a pretty good one in Nick Chubb.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see the Stefanski script coming out of this, too. I thought it was interesting last week, week 1, in the rain. Stefanski came out, and he was true to himself, man. He was throwing the ball over the schoolyard, and that wasn't working.
Yep.
The Bengals were getting after Deshaun Watson, and I'm sure that's probably the tape that Pittsburgh wants to watch and emulate, because Trey Hendrickson was having his way. Sam Hubbard was having his way. Deshaun was under distress, and he looked bad. Stefanski adapted and turned to that run game, turned Nick Chubb, and let him cook with his legs. I also think, too, as excited as we are for Chubb, the most underrated part to me of Deshaun Watson last week was him running the ball. And I think if you try to shut down Chubb, okay, you could try. Ford could pull it down himself and take off too, and that just has to make it so difficult for a defensive front.
You would think that we had a pre-show meeting and went over this exact topic, but if I had to list 3 keys for the game, this would be one of my 3 keys. That Deshaun Watson, and think about it. If you watched any of that Ravens game, the Ravens-Bengals game, how many times did you see the Bengals have coverage downfield, get some pressure on Lamar Jackson, and I'm not saying Deshaun Watson is Lamar Jackson, but get pressure on Lamar Jackson, then all of a sudden he either extends a play or he gets outside the box, he's racing for the sticks, he's got a first down, and it takes the wind out of your sails. So, again, I'm not saying Deshaun Watson is Lamar Jackson. What I am saying, though, is he is certainly athletic enough, as he proved last week, and did last week in awful elements, of being able to get outside the pocket and, hopefully extend the play, maybe get it downfield. But if not, tuck it and go, be safe with the football, and move the chains. Live to see another down, but also be able to pick up 5 or 6, or be able to move the chains. Nick, I think that could end up being, because both of these teams defensively excel at the same thing. Okay, and again, you're also, as offenses, not going to want to play into their hands and just say, okay, pin your ears back, come get us. You're going to want to be balanced and all of that. But I just think that when you look at the situation, Deshaun Watson, the Browns on offense, you want to be able to push the ball downfield. You want to be able to obviously get Nick Chubb involved early and often. But I think there's going to be times, and it's going to be on those money downs, on those third down plays where, Steelers are trying to get off the field, maybe late in the game. Deshaun Watson, if he's able to get out of the pocket and all of a sudden scramble, first down, that is, plays like that can make or break a ball game, and win or lose a ball game for you. And I think that could be a huge factor tonight.
Just keep these plays alive, Deshaun. I think that's really all we're asking. Nobody's asking him to be Lamar Jackson, like you just said.
Right.
Literally, when things break down, you don't see Amari Cooper. Elijah Moore is covered. You got nothing to Goodwin deep. Chubb probably not in the game. Just take off and slide. Stay safe at the end of it. But and I think he is a threat to do that. And that's just also another thing that Pittsburgh has to be out on the lookout for. So then those linebackers start creeping in. Then maybe Njoku slips through in the seam. That's when the Browns offense could really take its truest form, I think. When everything starts clicking on all cylinders. I don't know that we've seen it in its entirety yet with Deshaun Watson.
No,
I think it's got to be.
We haven't.
It's got to be when he's finally throwing things downfield at a consistent clip and the offensive line holds, that's when I think the Browns could start getting really fun. I don't know that it happens this game because Pittsburgh's pretty good. They got some good linebackers, but down the road, I think that's the nirvana of this Browns offense that they got to try to get to.
Chico Borman Show and the Big Play Sports Preview Show here as we get ready for the Browns and Steelers just after 8 o'clock at Acrisure Stadium. I think when we go back to this run game and kind of the balance, I love the chess match. I know Kevin Stefanski loves the chess match. Any coach does. But Kevin Stefanski is a guy that when he's going well, and I think back to like 2020, right, where there were literally he had opposing defenses on roller skates. Like they didn't know what was coming. You think they're going run, and like you said, guys are dropping down to the box, and all of a sudden, boop, over the top. How does he come out in this game? Like you mentioned last week, he did try to take some shots downfield, but to his credit, and I think it's very important, at times last year, he sometimes would, damn it, this square peg is going to go in this round hole.
Whether it likes it or not.
Exactly. It's going in. But he said, you know what? Let's, we've got Nick Chubb. Let's see what we got something special here. Let's do it. And we'll take what they're giving us. Our defense, and that's the other thing. When your defense is playing as well as they're playing, I think you can call a different game. Be a little more conservative, certainly when the weather calls for that as well. But when your defense is playing the way they're playing, that also allows that. And then, of course, we didn't talk about him, and that means it's a great thing. But Dustin Hopkins, we had concerns. He was great last week. He was fantastic. Now, you're only as good as your last game. What have you done for me lately? Last week, it was great. He's got to do the same thing in a raucous atmosphere. I don't know if it's as tough to kick in Pittsburgh. I'm not a kicker. It's still Three Rivers.
It is right on the water. Yeah,
it's
you would
outdoors.
imagine.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, you need all of that stuff to come together as well. But I think Kevin Stefanski, I'm curious to see how the Browns come out and what their game plan is early on offense.
I think he comes out swinging, Chico.
I do too.
It's nicer weather. I think he had stuff up his sleeve that he wanted to use week one that he couldn't. All we heard throughout training camp was the versatility of Elijah Moore. We saw it a little bit. I think we see it a lot more tonight. I think Stefanski comes out swinging. Deshaun comes out swinging. They're wearing the all-white throwbacks with the white helmets. I think it just adds to it. Monday Night TV, I think they try to put on a show early in this game. Guys
look faster in all white. I don't care what anybody says. Guys look faster when they're wearing all white.
My basketball coach growing up, I remember I showed up one day in black shoes, black Nike shoes, and he was like, He's like, you look slow. Had to switch it up. Got white, and actually
Did you say, hey, coach, maybe I just am slow, and it has nothing to do with the shoes.
And that was actually the reality in the situation, Chico.
He was doing you a favor, though.
He was.
I'll give him an out here.
I ended up upgrading later in life. I would do some flashy pink shoes, purple shoes. He was always good with those. He coached us kind of the whole way up through the AAU ranks, but the black shoes was never a go for him.
All right. Browns Steelers, as we said, we're about 45 minutes away or so in this ball game. Browns looking to go to 2-0. Again, these stats are mind-numbing, but look, the only way that you stop talking about the stats, the only way that you stop talking about having to change a culture is to go out there and do it and win games and win on the road in your division. Only way it's going to happen. It's the only way it's going to happen. But, again, 2-0 for the first time in 30 years. They have not been favored. The Browns have not been favored in Pittsburgh. They are still, Nick, the latest line from our boys at Tipico, is it still 2 or
we got it at Browns 2.5 right now.
2.5 right now. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of where it's been. Browns favored by 2.5. The Browns have not been favored in Pittsburgh since 1989.
And on our big play boost today, I bet $19.89 because of your tidbit that Big Shot Bob, intern Rob turned into a reel. I put $19.89 on the big play boost tonight in honor of that drought.
Now, if that cashes, do I get to take part in the
royalties only if you bet it, Chico? So download it right now.
I'm all over.
Promo code Chico150. Tipico Sportsbook. We got it up right now. The big play boost is Browns to win, or if you're Dave, he's very what's the word, superstitious. So he wanted it to be Steelers to lose, not Browns to win, even though that's the same thing. Kenny Pickett to throw an interception. Nick Chubb anytime touchdown.
Now you guys, you and Dave, when I was leaving on Friday, you and Dave had these big hats on for the Big Hat, Big Bet show.
Big hat, big bets, big plays.
You were talking about superstition. Are you guys superstitious to the point where you'll be donning these big hats from Big Play during the game?
I don't think so, man.
No?
Those things get hot.
Yeah, they are. That thing's pretty big.
Yeah,
that is
there's a lot of foam on the inside of that hat. But
that is a big hat.
That show has been a lot of fun, and I've definitely lost more than I've won on it, but I think we've provided some entertainment along the way.
And you've got a T-shirt out of it. I mean, Fade Padone.
Unreal.
Have you gone to the ballpark yet, or have you been walking to get morning bagels for you and your gal and your best girl, as they used to say back in the day? Have you been walking to get like bagels in the morning and you see somebody walking down the street with Fade Padone T-shirt on?
I haven't. I actually could do you one worse. So Reflog was throwing out the first pitch at the Crushers game, the Lake
You
Erie
guys are
Crushers.
huge celebrities. I know you guys are throwing out all these first pitches.
So Reflog's throwing out the first pitch, and I show up. I had the interns with me, actually. So we all get there. We get in there. Chris's whole family's there. The McNeils, they run deep. He's got a big family. They're all there. And I know McGrandma, his mom.
McGrandma.
that's her Twitter name.
McDonald's menu item.
So
all of a McGrandma.
McGrandma was there. Like, everybody's there. And there's Reflog's little son, no taller than this high, in a Fade Padone shirt.
Owen?
I'm like, oh, my goodness.
That's awesome. By the way, if you need bet credits, who doesn't need bet credits for football season?
Especially right now. I think you got a game that just kicked off. Saints-Panthers, live bet that game. Browns-Steelers getting ready to kick at 8:15.
Yep. Obviously, as we've been telling you, and you already know, the Big Play Network presented by Tipico Sportsbook. Tipico Sportsbook app has your traditional bets, of course. Don't worry about that. The money line, spread, point totals. But, and we're going to get to these coming up next, also lock in player props. And check out our Big Play boosts every single week to back your favorite Cleveland teams and athletes with the best odds in Ohio. Obviously, it's fun to have some action on the game and bet the spread and the money line and all that. But when you can bet, you know what? I really love David Njoku in this. I think I heard Nick Padone say that something about David Njoku down the seam and possibly being open. And you know what? I like the over. Whatever yards are for David Njoku. What are Tipico's odds for David Njoku if you happen to have that in front of you on the Tipico app? I thought I saw
a good number, 32.5.
That's okay. I was talking to our good buddy Eric Casilius, and I think he said he has 32, and Elijah is around what, like 40?
Tipico does this one. What? Elijah's had 37.5.
Really? Well, I mean, folks, it's begging you to do it. I don't know what they're begging you to do it. So lock in these player props. Check out our Big Play boosts every single week to back your favorite Cleveland teams. Get in the action. Load up for football season. And again, this is vitally important. Using promo code BIGPLAY150 to get $150 in bet credits on us, plus a $30 dog pound bet. Bet with the Big Play crew all season long with Tipico Sportsbook. You got some of your favorites as far as the prop bets you want to share with us over there?
Believe it or not, the only bet that I have in for this game is our boost. It's the Big Play boost. It's Browns money line, Chubb anytime touchdown. Kenny Pickett's throwing an interception in this game. That is the only bet that I have in. I do like the two that we just discussed in Elijah Moore and David Njoku as well. You know what's another fun one, Chico, is anytime touchdown scores. I usually like tossing that out on my Twitter account before the game, just asking people, give me one guy that you think you're sure of is going to score a touchdown in this game. It's always fun to see the answers, and it's fun to see the odds on some of these guys because, like, Elijah Moore, anytime touchdown, his first Browns touchdown, plus 375. You're almost 4-1 for Elijah Moore to score tonight. Those are just some fun odds that I always like to mess around with.
You know what I think we could see, and we kind of, and I don't want to jinx it by any means. Well, we don't worry about jinxes. I think we saw this last week against Cincinnati, but again, I mean, and I'm not defending Deshaun, but it was the elements for everybody. But you had some shots deep, and Marquise Goodwin had some separation on those shots deep. And this is a guy that, man, first of all, what a great story with Goodwin. We didn't even know if he would play at all this season. Had the blood clots early in preseason, really had no ramp up to the season, and then all of a sudden he's cleared. And Nick, I'm telling you, maybe on a better weather day, he and Deshaun Watson are hooking up for a long 6.
That's what I would do. I think coming out of the gates of this game, I'm throwing one deep just to check him. Throwing one deep to Goodwin. Whether it hits, if it hits, great. If it doesn't, okay, then I go back to running it with Chubb on second down. But I think first down in this game, I'm taking a shot, Watson to Goodwin downfield.
I want to, Minka Fitzpatrick, who we talked about, one of the best in the business.
Scares me always.
Yeah, I mean, he loves, what he does. He roams the middle of the field. We've seen him in past years read a quarterback's eyes, bait a quarterback, which is what, any great safety will do or any great DB period will do. And we've seen Minka do that to us quite a bit. Boy, all of a sudden, if you've got to take that element, throw that element out there of a guy getting behind you, and Marquise Goodwin, you might not see him make a lot of catches this year, but I think the catches he does make, including hopefully tonight, could be of the very big variety. And yeah, I'm kind of with you there, Nick. I think maybe they come out, and you always want to keep them guessing. So, if Kevin feels that maybe that's something that they're thinking too, well, okay, we're gonna just pound Nick Chubb, and you look at what Christian McCaffrey did against them last week as well. I remember Mike Tomlin, one of the last things he said, I think it was Thursday's practice before the game kicked off against the Niners, and he said, we better be good in space, because if not, Christian McCaffrey will make us look stupid. He makes a lot of people look stupid. Nick Chubb is very capable of doing that as well. Nick Chubb, I believe, had 5 runs of 10-plus yards last week, and that was better than any back in the National Football League. Like, that's what this guy does. It's not just, he can plow through. You need a first down, but, breaking that tackle, getting that extra yard, and then making that move at 230 pounds. So a lot of weapons at Kevin Stefanski's disposal. But I think when it comes right down to it, to kind of circle back, getting ready for this Browns-Steelers game, when it comes right down to it, I think we are all expecting a defensive game. And I'm not saying like
AFC North football.
Yeah, I don't want to say like slobber knocker. You know what I mean? Like slobber knockers. Yeah. But could it be what the over under in this game is
39. It's at on Tipico right now as I watch it. It's actually, it's 39. The other game just moved to 38.5.
My score right now would be I'm going to say Browns 21-17. I don't think this game is going to be a blowout. I do think it's going to be close. I just think that you're going to, and this is the other thing, and we haven't talked about this yet, and neither game last week, whether it was the Steelers and the Niners or whether it was the Browns and the Bengals, really came down to, turnovers and a critical turnover. Close games, we know, games like we had last week, especially in the division, are going to be much closer. I anticipate this one to be much closer, and this is where, man, you absolutely have to take care of the football. All the things that all the things that we continue to emphasize and the coaches continue to emphasize that really never happened over the last 2 seasons have to again happen now, but especially have to happen because you're going to be in a raucous environment. But the other thing that's great, players say this all the time, Nick, one of the best things a player can hear on the road is silence. Wow. They're playing Renegade, and everybody's going crazy, and they're waving those yellow pairs of underwear that they have or whatever the hell that is. They're terrible towels. And all of a sudden, like, you went right down the field. You went, say, 12, 13 plays, and you scored, and guess what? That place it's dead silent. Love to see that. Love to be able to hear that early on in this contest.
Yeah, it would be pretty cool. I was actually the only time I was at that stadium was when the Browns were driving. I was the one hooting and hollering in my Tim Couch jersey as the pass falls right between Corey Coleman's hands, and the Browns went 0-16 was the last time I was in Pittsburgh.
We don't talk about those things anymore. Yeah, no.
I'm scarred.
It's okay. Yeah, I think.
We avenge it tonight.
I feel like, yes, I feel like this is, and it was only one game, but like, I want to reiterate this because the fans, I always feel bad for more than anybody else. I feel bad for the fans. And I don't just mean like, oh, they haven't had a consistently winning football team since 99. I think that's obvious. Where I feel bad for the fans is, and they get this knock from like other fan bases throughout the country, like, oh, look at those Browns fans. They're getting all excited and they're happy and they think well, they should be, I mean, that's what fans do. But this does feel very genuine. This feels very real. But I think the best thing about it is in previous years, maybe in places and with people you didn't really want to say it to, you did say, like, we're not going to be very good this year. You're not saying that now. So you know what, Browns fans? You should be feeling good. I don't care what the national, and I know it's easy to get caught up in that, because for the longest time, Browns fans, they wanted to be relevant. They wanted the Browns to be relevant. And whether that was a good relevant, bad relevant, they preferred good relevant, but just relevant. Well, those years are behind us. Those years are gone. And now it's about, okay, this is a very talented team. This is a team with seemingly all the pieces to be able to win. Now you got to go out there and do it. And I think the fans right now genuinely feel like, well, why not us? And you know what? Damn it, why not us? Again, beginning tonight, making it 2-0 for the first time since 1993.
I know you were teasing me about it, Chico, and it was off air when we were in here. You were wrapping up your show. I had that goofy big hat on, getting ready to do the betting stream. I can't get it through my head that the Browns on paper, and we've played this game so many times, so I'm just going to say it, let it be said, and move a pass from it. On paper, the Browns are far and away better team than Pittsburgh this year. Offense, defense, special teams. The Browns are just the better team in this matchup. That D-line versus their O-line, our DBs versus their receivers, our quarterback versus their quarterback. Dare I say our head coach? Maybe not yet, but I'm excited. And I think on paper, the Browns are favored in just about every positional battle in this game. And I can't get it out of my head that if you were to sim this through Madden 100 different times, the Browns probably come out on top of it 95 of the times. But that's why they play the games in the NFL. And what goes down in those 4 lines is you could never predict it. How many games did we see in week 1 and then last week that were just like, wait, the Falcons beat the Packers yesterday? Like, why? That's why they play the games.
The Chargers are 0-2.
The Titans won on a walk-off field goal.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot. Here's the other thing that we have to, and we'll talk more about this, I think, as the games get going and we get into, the first month of the season. It's okay to say it. It's not I don't think it's taboo. I don't think it should be taboo. It takes teams now about a good month. Yep. Like, you're just not going to be hitting on all cylinders. I don't care. Even that you're seeing it. Even the teams that have the superstar quarterbacks, and they've had the chemistry, and you can't go through a preseason where you're not getting any reps, and then all of a sudden, game one, bullets are flying for real. Okay, we're good. I'm up to game speed. It doesn't work that way at that level.
These are preseason games. I mean, and the guys that do play in the preseason, your real guys, your real starters, they play maybe a drive here and a drive there, and then the rest of it, they sit. That doesn't emulate playing real full 4 quarters of hard-nosed football. Like, even in the preseason this year, where Deshaun Watson did play those couple series, that was against backups. Those were against guys that mostly got cut. And, of course, he looked great. And there is value still in him playing those games to knock off some of that rust, to just get in an overall flow and a rhythm with some of your guys. It doesn't matter the skill set. Just getting those game reps in pads is a good thing. But for the most part, that doesn't really count. This right here is what actually counts. And now that we get 2 games, 3 games, 4 games into the year, I think we get a truer picture every single season of what teams are actually looking like what teams are good, what teams are bad, and what teams are just kind of in the middle.
Also a late development in this, or at least I think earlier in the day it started. A new Monday Night Football anthem will debut tonight. Phil Collins?
This moved the spread for me. I had on Tipico at about -2.5. I was like them. I was, Browns by a field goal on the road. That was respectable. But when I saw Monday Night Football's rolling out with Phil Collins, I think it's Chris Stapleton's iteration of In the Air Tonight. That moved my spread a little bit. Now I'm looking at like -4.5, -5.5. In favor of the Browns, because that's the song. And I know I got so many mentions when I put this out there. Oh, that song's synonymous with Baker. Baker ruined that song.
That's exactly where I was going.
They played that song in that stadium ever since I was a little kid. Baker didn't invent In the Air Tonight. He didn't go to Phil Collins and say, hey, man, it would be cool. He didn't go to the Haslams and be like, hey, I really like this song. Cribs said that every time he hears that song, he feels like he's getting ready to go in the game.
I mean, it is if that song gets you pumped up. I mean, it just does. And between that, now, again, a song like Renegade is a Pittsburgh thing. They have theirs.
Also a great song.
Yeah, it is. I hate to say it, it is. Like, when I hear it, I don't know if I could do it on game day, though. Like, if I was driving in earlier today and all of a sudden, like, Renegade came on, I don't know if I could listen to it.
What's kind of crazy, it turned into a de facto, like, Kent football thing, too, because Kent State has so many people from Pittsburgh. They would play it before, like, Kent games. Like, the 20 people that would be gathered around the stadium before everybody went in the game, they would play it at Kent games because there's just so many kids from Pittsburgh there.
I love that. Just that, and then they start, because it's kind of like when Wisconsin does the jump around, and all you hear is the and then they just start going, jumping, going crazy. It's the same thing with that. It's just like, oh, mama, and then they go nuts.
Stupid flags, the towels start going.
But I think I said this earlier. I'm so curious to see how this game starts out, and not just, for the obvious, right? I mean, we want to see how the game starts out, and better you start well than not start well. But, like, if you're Pittsburgh, this isn't Ben Roethlisberger anymore, okay? This is Kenny Pickett. And I'm not saying Kenny Pickett, has no confidence in himself, but you start to, it's just human nature. Oh, no, not again. No, and that's, I think that's what you want. And if the Browns, it sounds easy to say, like, sounds good to say, like, get them up top early, which they could do. I also love the idea of maybe a long sustained drive where it just kind of takes the go back to yesterday's Bengals-Ravens game. The Bengals came down the field. They had a score there in the third quarter, and, like, that place, they're playing Welcome to the Jungle, and it's who day, and then Baltimore just gets on the first play from scrimmage is like a 22-yard run from Gus Edwards. And you know what happened to that crowd? Zip, done. Just that run play of, 10-plus, 20-plus yards. They immediately, takes the wind out of their sails. I think the Browns have all have all the tools in their toolbox to be able to do that tonight. I do.
I think the Browns should, like, J.W. Johnson does a good job with, like, their in-game entertainment.
Yeah.
I think they should move that guitar smash to the third quarter. Do it in the third quarter. Let that be our renegade. Bring out Bernie to the Sweet Child O' Mine, and then he just, bam, smashes the guitar right there on
He does Sweet Child O' Mine, followed by You Matter. We need to find a... Well, now you got my mind. You got the...
That's my marketing brain going. My bad.
You got the wheels churning. No, that's what you do best. Ronald, by the way, on Twitter, and you can follow us on Twitter. The show Twitter is at Chico Show CLE. My personal Twitter at Big Play Chico. He is Nick Padone at Nick Padone12. Ronald says over under Watson with 250 passing yards tonight. I'm going under, but that doesn't mean that's a bad thing. I think we're all waiting, and we might have to wait a bit longer. And I know we can talk about what he's getting paid, but he's still not there yet. It's okay to say that.
And I'll say this too. He could be getting paid $250 million fully guaranteed. If that record says 2-0 tomorrow, I don't care how it looks.
Exactly. Take care of the football. I mean, because let's say he throws for 330 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. Well, none of that matters if, so if his final line is, and maybe he doesn't throw it a whole lot. Let's say he's 19 of 24 for 233 yards and 1 touchdown. And you got another touchdown from Nick Chubb, maybe a couple of field goals, and the Browns win 20-17. All day long. Because, again, this is a great defense.
Yep.
Let's not forget, this is a great defense. And the other thing is, Nick, and I don't think we've shied away from it, certainly in the media. This is an opportunity to really get a leg up. And, again, it's not a matter of you win the division or you're going to the playoffs after 2 weeks or after the first month. But, my gosh, if you have an opportunity with Cincinnati not hitting on all cylinders early, and you're able to, take care of them. And then you've got Pittsburgh coming off a game where they just got waxed by San Francisco, your young quarterback who is probably going to become more confident as the season goes along, but right now his confidence is a bit lacking. Well, you get him the following week, great. I feel like this is one of those you want to take advantage of. These are big. These are divisional games.
Yep. And
not only are you, as you pointed out, and I agree, are you the better team, but I think you're the better team clearly right now. And, if you can jump out to that 2-0 lead in the division, match Baltimore, yeah, I mean, you're feeling pretty damn good about yourself.
I've been saying this ever since the schedule dropped, and it really hasn't changed for me at all. Just get out of this month. This month is so grueling. And I initially thought, my brain always immediately goes worst case. Oh, God, it's the early bye. Say they don't have a win at the bye. Do they fire the coach at the bye? What if it's the opposite? These games before the bye week are so difficult. You obviously open the season against the Bengals, play away from the Super Bowl. Now you're in Pittsburgh, Monday Night TV, a place where you haven't won in a very long time. That's a tough game. Tennessee, Vrabel, Derrick Henry, we know what they're about. Then you got the Ravens. You got the 49ers. If you could come out of this alive with a winning record and take advantage of these opportunities as they're in front of you, like tonight, look at what you got in front of you next month. You got the Colts. You got the Seahawks. You got the Cardinals. You got the Rams, the Texans, the Bears. The schedule softens up. And I think right now, if you could win these games early, the national media buy-in is going to be crazy midway through that schedule because they're going to see this cupcake walk right now that the Browns have. Obviously, things change. A team like the Bears, the Texans could get hot. But right now, just taking things for what it's worth today, the opportunity's there for this team to be really good.
Well, and that's a great point. And let's talk about that team that, the Browns beat last week and then the Ravens beat yesterday. And now all of a sudden the Bengals are 0-2. And of course, it's the question going around, not just Cincinnati, not just Cleveland, everywhere. What's the concern level for Cincinnati? I think the injury is certainly a big factor. It's not exactly like it was a year ago when they started 0-2. But here's my other thing too. Cincinnati, I think, is going to get going. How soon that'll be, I don't know. But they're going to get to a point where they're starting to hit on all cylinders and that confidence. So it is absolutely imperative that the Browns did what they did last week. But now it's, as you say, stack wins. You've got to go out and you've got to beat a team that I think clearly you're better than on paper. But man, you've got to continue to pick up where San Francisco left off. Yep. And I can't reiterate this enough. The Steelers, they never got into a game plan. Whatever they had from Matt Canada, and he takes a lot of heat in Pittsburgh, but whatever game plan Matt Canada had, I would say about probably by the end of the first quarter, it was in somebody's bonfire in a parking lot somewhere. It was gone. It didn't even matter because you had one total yard at the 2-minute mark of the 2-minute warning in the first half, and you were down 20-0. So, I mean, it was like, well, so much for running Najee Harris, so much for keeping them guessing. They're going to try to do exactly that to start this game, I think. And this is where, like, as much as we talk about Miles and Za'Darius and that we should be, I think you're going to be hearing a lot more Dalvin Tomlinson and Shelby Harris and all these guys that Andrew Berry made a point to go out and get to fortify up front.
Yeah, and if you start that fast in that first quarter, you're going to be in for a fun night. Teams that played the 49ers last year, their record that very next week, 0-16.
Yeah, I saw that stat. That's fascinating.
I made sure to fact check it before I put it out on my personal. Like, I went through and looked at every game. Surely enough, they were beating up on some teams too. Like after they were done with somebody, the next team would go blow their doors off too.
All right, I want to remind folks as we get closer and closer to 8 o'clock here, and of course getting you set for the kickoff, which is around 8:20. The Big Play Boost is on Tipico Sportsbook right now. Padone loves it. This is one of those, I might say, like in the past and at times, well, if Padone loves it, I love it. Padone loves it. You should love it as well. Nick Chubb, anytime TD. Kenny Pickett to throw an interception. Come on, that's definitely going to happen. Browns to win the game. The Big Play Boost on Tipico. Go check it out now. Obviously, hopefully you've downloaded the app by now. And again, not just the traditional bets like the money line spread and point totals, but as I just said, there's your boost. And they do this every week. They do it for your favorite players. Remember, a lot of times with the Guardians, this guy's going to hit. So now we're into Brown season, and yeah, you got a Nick Chubb anytime TD, Kenny Pickett to throw a pick. Yeah, what is that? It's over under half.
Have an interception, yeah. So, and what's crazy about these boosts, too, like we talk about it a lot, and yeah, okay, it's cool that we could pull these out, like anybody could pull these out, but traditionally this would be a plus 370 bet. So really 4-1. We boost it to plus 470. So you get an extra bang for your buck to bet on Tipico. That's kind of the why behind all of this, and that's why it is the Big Play Boost. We're giving you better odds, more cash for your dollar when that thing hits. Also, Chico, check this out. Yeah. We're going to be live on the Big Play social medias, Big Play YouTube, Big Play Twitter, for a little watch party with Josh Cribbs. We got people piling in. You can see it on the screen right there. Come hang out. Come watch with us.
Look at those cozy chairs, the recliner. I mean, this isn't like a simple lounge chair from your aunt and uncle's backyard. I mean, these are cozy recliner chairs. People are getting comfy. We got food out there from Tony and the guys at the Dude Network.
Dude Network out here doing trash can nachos because the Steelers are trash.
Yes.
Tony's attitude will never change.
Yeah. See Cribbs over there right now. I thought I saw. I definitely saw Greg Williams here earlier.
Came in here.
This is outstanding stuff. All right, before we go, Nick Padone with score. Your prediction: are the Browns moving to 2-0 after tonight's game in Pittsburgh?
Browns 2-0. I got the Browns winning this one 24-10. I'm on the under like you. 24-10. Browns win big. Offense looks okay, but it's the defense. It's Jim Schwartz that flexes his muscles yet again in the AFC North.
A defensive touchdown. Are you getting that bold or just
I'm not getting that bold. I'm saying the big play boost hits. Kenny Pickett's throwing an interception. I don't know if it's a defensive touchdown, but he's throwing an interception. Big play boost hits. Browns win. Browns cover. Go Browns.
Okay, I'm going to say Browns win as well. Browns cover. Closer game. Browns 21, Steelers 17. And I'm going to say first touchdown tonight. I think Deshaun Watson and Marquise Goodwin are going to hook up on a bomb. I think that'll be one of the touchdowns. And then I think you're just, maybe you see kind of what they did last week against Cincinnati. You get that lead, and then it's Chubb, and then it's first downs, and, hopefully that's how it plays out. But we are out of time. Hey, the talking is done. The preparations are done. Well, they might still be continuing out there with Tony and his crew, but we got a great crew outside here for the Josh Cribbs watch party here at Big Play Sports. We're going to be back with you tomorrow. Matt Fontana breaking it all down at 9 a.m. from 9 a.m. to 11. I'll be with you from noon until 2. Reflog show tomorrow as well. I mean, everybody's back. Bernie and Hanford breaking it all down. Josh and Maria, everybody's going to be talking about it, and we want to, of course, hear from you. So, for Nick Padone, I'm Mike Chico Borman. Again, go to Tipico, download that app, the Big Play Boost. You still got time. Nick Chubb, anytime TD. Kenny Pickett to throw an interception. Browns to win. That's some easy, easy money. Until tomorrow, folks, make it a great rest of your Monday night, and go Browns. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Ooh, ooh.